In the beginning, there were only 3 Spider-Man movies. We are doing another commentary, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's been a while since I did the last one. It's just, I don't know, man. I know I've been lifting. I kind of want to get back into the groove, and I feel bad for you Patreons because you guys actually do spend money for this, and I haven't really been delivering. I haven't really been, I don't know. I don't think I've been in the best. I guess, like, this is more personal, but haven't been really, like, in the best, spot to really be focusing on different levels of work. I don't know. Last month's been kind of weird. But never mind that. I don't know how much I like that transition, honestly. I wanted to do like a rack focus, but I didn't get it right. I think I bumped the camera. This is a weird first part of the episode, I think. I think I just wanted to, like, originally I just wanted to do something funny, like what could have happened between Spider-Man 4 or Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man, but I don't know if it, like, went as well, or if it went, one second, I gotta, like, turn this on a bit. I don't think that first part, the what really happened to Spider-Man 4 thing, does a good job of introducing the whole series. It kind of is like more like a prologue or a prelude, if anything. It's short, it's not too bad, but I think my biggest issue with it is, like, when I made this originally, I wasn't actually planning for this to become a series or to become like a whole story yet. I just kind of wanted it to be like kind of funny, but I wasn't really planning to attach things to it. But I did, because I eventually realized, wait, you can do something here with Mickey Mouse especially. This set, somebody mentioned to it, somebody mentioned this in the comments, but they said the set looked kind of dirty, and I agree. I think it has something to do with the bricks themselves that I used, that I got from Bricklink. But I think it mostly has to do with the camera I was using, and I think that's the biggest issue I have with videos from this era, particularly from like September, October, November, is the camera I was using. I was using a T2i, but the lens, there's something wrong with it, and for some reason when the light would hit the lens wrong, you'd see like a yellow gross spot just kind of chilling there, and I tried to wipe the lens so many times and clean it, and I couldn't get rid of it. You know, I can't really buy a new lens because lenses are expensive. But I like this fight scene. It's fun. Pew. The Metal Gear Solid music, the Hanzo was there for no reason. I thought that was funny. And of course, it's sort of like, at this point I was trying to like make Mickey seem like a real genuine threat, which is why he kind of just destroys Andrew Garfield Spider-Man here. Your franchise has failed. Mickey Mouse was actually so fun to like to voice act and animate. I really like having him as like the business tycoon villain. And then all the villains come in. Yep, and I like the shot a lot as well, especially when the goblins come in. Haha. And yeah, I really like Mickey Mouse is funny. It's fun to have him sort of like really evil and like really crazy. Anyways, we got the introduction of Bully Maguire. And he comes in, destroys Mysterio for no reason, even though Mysterio technically doesn't exist yet in the Spider-Man movie canon, because Far From Home or Homecoming hasn't come out yet. But hey, I included him anyways because I thought it'd be fun. And then you have like, this billboard, and you have the running joke between like the 50, like how many was it? 700 million at the box office and 52% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Oh man, this fight scene took a long time to actually develop. It took me like 2 weeks because, man, Spider-Man, like animating him, especially when you want to make him like do flips and tricks and all that crazy stuff, takes a while, of course. But actually, I'm really happy with how this fight came out. I think I really tried to make all the action very readable, and I think that's what makes it a much better fight. Because having readable action while also having it be like fast paced and quick is what I think is essential to having a good fight scene. You just gotta make the action like very clear to the audience. Make the moves and the hits hit hard. And you can have some story bits in here. Yeah, this fight obviously has some story bits because it's a part of a larger story. The implications of the two working class sort of not having class solidarity, and one blames the other for their own downfall, when in reality they should be blaming the systems put in place that allows this to happen, in which case is Disney and the business and the whole thing. That's the one thing I was trying to go for with this particular project, is that all the Spider-Man, I wanted them to like have to unite, because I mean it's kind of a real thing. You look at like You look at a lot of people in real life in like a lower class setting, and they kind of trample over each other to get to a higher class setting. But it should be there should be more solidarity between like the working class citizens, because at the end of the day we're all being exploited by the same upper class sort of business tycoons. So yes, that was my one underlying theme I wanted in particular for this one. With the two Spider-Man, of course, especially Tobey Maguire, he blames Andrew Garfield for replacing him, but it's not really Andrew's fault. It's Disney. It was Disney, the studio, and all that stuff. Like they screwed him over, not Andrew. Andrew just was just the guy who happened to be there, which is why I didn't want to go through the same story with Tom Holland. A lot of people were asking maybe you should make Tom Holland fight Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but that wasn't necessarily the point. I wanted them to. At this point, we already had the Spider-Man versus each other fight, anyways. But on top of that, they've already learned their lesson. They already know that it's not these, it's not the Spider-Man, like the actor that they should blame, but rather the studio. And that's why they fight Mickey Mouse instead of each other. And Sony's also not really a good guy either in this scenario. Now, this part was a lot of fun to write because at this point I had more of a grasp on what was actually going on with these companies. Obviously, this is still fiction. Mickey Mouse and these Sony people don't actually like exist in real life. These are just stand-ins, of course, for what the corporations I think represent. Of course, Mickey Mouse just wants to dominate the entire media industry and have a monopoly. Sony doesn't really care about anything. They just want to make money. And that's one thing I really like about the series. I really like how in this particular episode you see the Sony office go from some sort of like smaller, dingy kind of place to this nicer, more plant life, windows and stuff. It's like they go up to a higher to a nicer office because the moves are more successful. And this part is just I remember this part for some reason took me so long to animate, and the fancy chair, of course, it's what he wants the most. And this is what pretty much happened in real life is when Sony and Marvel or Disney tried to go into another deal because Disney wanted more money. And Sony said, "Nah, man, you already got a lot." Like, and then this part I want to represent sort of the fan backlash. A lot of people actually blame Sony at the start for this. They're like, "Friggin' Sony's ruining my Spider-Man movies again. No, this can't be." And even though we were gonna get more like Tom Holland movies, they were gonna be under Sony, and we weren't really confident in their ability at that point. Yeah. So it's so when Andrew said it's always their fault, like that's how a lot of people were feeling at that exact moment. That's especially how I was feeling. That's for sure. But then like more stuff comes like to light, and you realize, wait a second, uh, all these corporations are kind of just don't really care about anybody. They just want to make money, and they're must be okay. I'm gonna stop going on my radical tangents. How long is this? Oh yeah, it's a 15-minute long whole movie, which is weird because this is the fourth episode. I remember this is the fourth episode in the series. What really happened to the MCU Spider-Man 3 movie, or what really happened to the MCU Disney Sony Spider-Man deal? And this was 4 minutes long. Yeah, these episodes were getting longer and longer. But it feels like we're definitely doing like a steady climb to the climax, but not exactly. Now this is actually a philosophy I have when it comes to writing, like villains and hero villain dynamics like this. I think it's really important to have the heroes and villains, like in this particular case, I think Mickey had to fight the Spider-Man, like has to have a confrontation with at least a couple times to really hone in his power, especially like this. You need to have the villain sort of beat up the main character a couple times throughout the story to really make that ending fight cathartic, to really make it like worth something. Because when you like at this point we've already seen two Mickey Mouse fights. We've seen Mickey fight Andrew Garfield, and now we're watching him fight Tom Holland, and Mickey's kicking both of their asses. And he gets kind of like dumpstered here just because he gets caught off guard by their two spiders, but there's still too much. Like they can't really fight him yet because there's still too much. They gotta go to the villains, which I guess from a writing perspective on my end it doesn't make much sense because they just end up going to his house anyways without having knocked anybody else out. So well, what can you really do? Definitely something I kind of want to like I would try and rework to make it work better. Like maybe they could be hunting all the actors, or maybe they could even be recruiting them on their side. But I kind of just ended up writing that into the final confrontation when the Spider-Man have the speeches to sort of like inspire the villains and realize, wait a second, we're not supposed to be fighting each other. We're supposed to be fighting the guys who are controlling us. And I guess this is just the when the news broke to the audience. But I was saying about the whole Mickey Mouse thing and like how I think you have to have your villain fight your heroes a couple times throughout the series and make him really kick their asses. Because you've seen Mickey at this point beat up Andrew Garfield and now he's beat up Tom Holland. So now you've already seen Mickey also twist the knife in Sony Studios as well. So at this point, you kind of get an idea of who he is and how powerful he is and how difficult he is to take down, which makes this whole confrontation that much more. I don't know if like visceral is the right word, but like it makes it more. It makes it less like obvious exactly how the fight's going to play out. You know he's really strong. You know they need all three of them together to beat them. But how are they going to do that? Can they just outfight him? I don't know. This is something you have to like. I have to think about too. Like how are they going to really take him down? Because they can't just take him down in a hand-to-hand fight. Because at that point, I've spent so much time building up this character to be like a powerhouse that if he's just taking down in a fight, just because I don't know, one reason or the other, like he just gets worn out, it's a little bit too easy. You need to have a very clever way that sort of wraps up every character's arc and sort of makes sense. Anyways, all the villains come in here, and this is sort of like, again, this is harkening back to the working class, uniting and stuff. Because again, these are the actors. These are the people who don't really have a say in what happens to them or what happens to the movies. Yeah, see, they said we're on your side. We're all part of the Spider-Man franchise. We're all actors together. This is my favorite line coming up. I don't know if you can hear that. When he said, I'm something of an actor myself, that's easily my favorite line in the entire video. I'm something of an actor myself. But yeah, see, this is just kind of like, this is kind of just their speech that really that unites the entire working class. We must have a political revolution, or whatever. And yeah, they all turn on Mickey, and Mickey's like, you know what, screw this shit. I don't need you anyways. This is pretty much what a corporation would do, is just fire all the employees and then bring in new ones. Having worked at Amazon, 100% I can guarantee this is exactly what would happen in real life. And now, this is when the actual fight really pops off, because it needs to have that sort of, I guess, anger behind it as well. And now it needs to have, there also needs to be like, so now Mickey's about to go to Sony, because there needs to be something that the fight revolves around to really have it be interesting. Mickey's trying to kill Sony, the Spider-Man are trying to save him. But there's so much going on at this point, and that's what I like about this fight in particular. It's not just all fighting, because the story itself, this like a lot of I find a lot of shorts and movies and videos sometimes will have a fight for the sake of having a fight. But I find like a fight scene in an action movie is a lot like is like a musical number in a musical. In a musical, if your character can't just say their emotion because their emotions are too strong, they gotta sing it. In an action movie, characters can only be brought to a fight when they have to protect something or when there's a boiling point, and essentially when fighting is literally no other option for the story. This is how you progress the story. Sometimes fights will just happen just because they're fun, and yeah, fights can be fun. Fights should be fun, and you can have a fight without needing to really have a solid story behind it. But in a video like this, I think it's really important to. I forgot that happened. That always kills. Johnson just freaking is walking at the wrong time. But yeah, I think when you have a fight, all the fights in this video, in this particular full movie, I tried to really make sure that it was a fight that progresses the story. That really, that really brings the narrative forward and drives it. It's not just fighting for the sake of fighting, and I think that's really important. And of course, the way we all know this ends, it simply ends the only way I think it probably can is with. I mean, at this point, they can either just kill Mickey, but I think that'd be out of character for the Spider-Man, or the Sony business people can really get something to leverage against Mickey. And of course, Mickey not being a man of integrity, will lie and will cover up his crimes, and that's what will keep him shut. Is that it's not necessarily the threat of his. It's not the threat to his own existence that caused him to stop. It's the threat to his company's existence and its income. That's what causes him to stop. Um, and then at this point, a lot of people did call me out. Not a lot, not call me out, but they commented and said, YouTube video essays, was that a jab at High Top Films? I think High Top's Films is honestly a little bit too negative to MCU Spider-Man, and it's kind of like you gotta relax. But yeah, that's the whole video right there. I guess things to go over now that we have the time. Again, with this particular fight scene, I actually did change the camera I was using. So for this shot here, I was using the T2i, which is, you can kind of see this yellow mark. Let's see, like right there, right under Andrew Garfield's head, you can see that yellow mark. It's kind of gross, and it really shows up a lot against black backgrounds, so like nighttime, which really did not look nice. I didn't like it at all, and it was right here where I changed the camera. This shot exactly. So this shot I was using, not that one. This shot I was using the T2i, the Canon T2i, but this shot I switched back to my Nikon D90, which looks cleaner. And overall, I guess the biggest downgrade was that this camera doesn't have zoom, which is why I was using the T2i so much, is because it had a zoom lens, and this one didn't. This one only had a prime lens. But really, I think working around that was much better overall for a cleaner image. I think it's just important. Also, I really had trouble with light flicker. I think I still have trouble with light flicker still, because I guess sometimes it can just be unpredictable and uncontrollable, but this one's kind of bad in terms of that. But Sonyverse, yeah, Sonyverse I really liked. I kind of wish I had time to color grade this scene, because the colors are kind of flat. I really color graded the scene here, especially because I like the blue sky background, but not everything. Oh, I also like the way this scene looks. This is probably, like, this whole final confrontation is probably my favorite part of the film, because I think at this point, like, especially with the music and everything sort of resonating, this is like the boiling point. This is the only place that the narrative could come to. And originally, I didn't even have it happen in the Sony headquarters. I didn't even have the Sony guys here in the original draft. And when I was writing it, I was thinking to myself, this makes no sense. Why wouldn't the Sony guys be here? They're like an integral part to the story too. It would only make sense if they were all a part of it. Like, originally, I just had like an idea of, like, originally in the original draft, the Spider-Man were straight up just gonna fight all these actors and shit, and have like a crazy Spider-Man, Sinister 9 type of brawl. And it would have been fun, sure, but narratively speaking, it would not only go against what these characters were talking about earlier, especially with the two Spider-Man actors uniting. It just wouldn't necessarily be gratifying, I don't think. Which is why instead I made them turncoat, which is why I made the villains turncoat, because it makes sense for them to, because they're also actors. They come from the exact same background as the Spider-Man actors. So yeah, it makes it like, if they were able to inspire them, then yeah, it makes sense that they would turn on their bosses, because they know that's where the mistreatment would be coming from. Of course, Mickey Mouse is Mickey Mouse, and he's not gonna let that happen, so he just kills them all, and that gives the Spider-Man even more of a reason to get really angry. And now they're just like, you know what, we can't, like, if you're gonna make peaceful revolution impossible, you're gonna make violent revolution inevitable. So they get into a fight. And that's what I really like about this ending. But at the end of the day, Sony doesn't really save the day out of like need because they want to be good. They just do it because, well, they can. They can save money. They can get more fancy chairs. And you will be canceled. That's pretty much. I guess that's one of the biggest leverages like a lot of people have against corporations is, like if public opinion is so sour against them, they know that they won't be able to just continuously have a monopoly on what they create, because nobody's gonna buy from a company that everybody knows is kind of evil. but yeah, that's the whole meaning behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's actually really a tale about solid, like, working class solidarity and uprising against the billionaire class or whatever. All right. Well, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'm gonna upload this right now. See you guys then.